Good morning, dear students, and welcome to today's session. In this session, we are going to continue with our discussion of the Merchant of Venice, Act 1, Scene 1. And in this particular session, we are going to discuss from line number 139 to line number 164. That is from Antonio's part till Bassanio's part, that is 164. Now, in the previous class or in the previous session, we discussed that Bassanio had thought of a plan to honorably clear all his debts. So he wanted to present himself as a worthy suitor to Portia in Belmont, and if he succeeded in the lottery of casket, he would no doubt become rich, and he would then possess enough wealth using which he can clear all his previous debts. Now, when he discloses Antonio, or he tells Antonio about the fact that he has thought of a plan, it is in response to that Antonio speaks these words. He says, "I pray you, good Bassanio, let me know it, and if it stand, as you yourself still do, within the eyes of honor, be assured, my purse, my person, my extremest means lie all unlocked to your occasion." So here, in this particular part, Antonio requests Bassanio to let him know about his plans. And he assures Bassanio that if the plans of Bassanio are as honorable as Bassanio himself, if they do not cross the boundaries of what can be regarded as honorable, just as Bassanio himself has never crossed those boundaries, then Antonio would do everything possible to help Bassanio. He assures him that if his plans are honorable like himself, then his purse, here purse means his money, he himself and his uttermost resources would be placed at the disposal of Bassanio in order to meet his requirements. So he can go to any extent to help Bassanio so that his plans or Bassanio's plans could be materialized. Now still, then also, Bassanio does not directly tell him about his requirement. Actually, we the readers know that Bassanio had come to Antonio to request him to lend him a loan of 3,000 ducats. But here we find that instead of asking Antonio directly for that loan, he speaks in a roundabout manner. And here you will see that Bassanio gives an example of his school days. He says that during his school days, when he used to play the game of shooting arrows, while playing that game of shooting arrows, it sometimes happened that he used to lose one arrow. Now, when he used to lose one arrow, he used to make use of a particular method to find out that lost arrow. What Bassanio used to do? He used to shoot another arrow of the self-same flight in the self-same way, but on the second occasion he used to keep a more advised watch. Now here we need to understand that what does it mean, the self-same flight. So self-same flight here means arrows which are identical to each other with all regards or in all respects. That is, they have the same length, weight and other measures, so that when they are shot, they are sure to go in the same direction. So when Bassanio used to lose one arrow, he used to shoot another arrow which was identical to the previous one in all respect, and he used to shoot it in the self same direction, exactly in the same direction, and on the second occasion he used to keep a careful watch on that arrow, and by doing this he often used to find the lost arrow. So by venturing, by taking the risk of losing yet another arrow, Bassanio often used to find both the arrows. And here Bassanio gives an example of his school days. And when we are school going children, that is the period of childhood. And here Bassanio says that he offers to Antonio this childhood proof, or this proof of a childhood game, because now what Bassanio is going to tell Antonio is marked by pure innocence. So childhood is the stage which is marked by innocence. So Bassanio also is going to tell something to Antonio, and that is marked by his innocence. He frankly admits before Antonio that he as a person owes much to Antonio, both in matters of money as well as in matters of love. He owes much to Antonio because on previous occasions he had borrowed money from him. But like an extravagant youth, like a self-willed young man, he had lost all the money that he had borrowed from Antonio by leading a very extravagant life. And now he has come to Antonio to beg him for some more money. So there is a probability that Antonio may refuse to lend him any future loans, because he had lost all the previous wealth that was given to him by Antonio. So therefore he says that he has come here to ask for yet another loan to Antonio, and if Antonio is pleased to shoot another arrow that self way in which he had shot the first one, that is, in other words, if Antonio is pleased to lend future loan to Bassanio just in the same manner as he had trusted Bassanio on earlier occasions, and he had given him some loans on the earlier occasions, then Bassanio assures him, promises him that this time he would be even more careful and he would try his level best to clear all his debts to Antonio. He promises that he would try to clear all his debts to Antonio, and if he happens not to be in a position to clear the previous dues, at least he promises that he will clear the present amount, and he would thankfully lie a debtor to Antonio for the previous loans. So this is the demand, or we can say the request of Bassanio to Antonio. Now when Bassanio speaks this verse to Antonio, Antonio is little hurt, because Antonio used to consider Bassanio to be one of his very dearest friends. Bassanio was more of a relative to Antonio than just being a friend. So therefore Antonio very clearly tells Bassanio that Bassanio knows him very well, but even after knowing him, what Bassanio is doing, he is spending his time to wind about Antonio's love with circumstances. So he is just trying to make an appeal to Antonio's love in a very complicated manner, instead of being very straightforward in his demand. So Bassanio is merely wasting his time in trying to win the love of Antonio by talking about the matter in a roundabout manner, instead of coming to the point straight away. And in doing that, he is surely doing great injustice to Antonio, because he is doubting the willingness of Antonio to help him. And Antonio assures him that even if Bassanio would have squandered all his wealth then also he would have never complained about it. So that shows the type of friendship that Antonio and Bassanio had. So he says that the moment Bassanio tells something to Antonio, Antonio would be at once pressed into it. He would at once become ready to do it for the sake of Bassanio. Is that clear? So this much for today. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed.